All right, today we're going to talk about something that can be going on in any home, but it's totally misunderstood. We're talking about mold, but not the molds you can see. We're going to uncover the invisible signals of a problem way before it ever breaks the surface. Let's dive in.
So, let me just start by asking you this. Do you think your home is totally fine, totally mold-free just because you can't see any dark spots on the walls? I mean, it's a super common assumption, right? But it's also an assumption that can hide a much bigger, invisible problem that's literally lurking just out of sight.
This all really boils down to two different mindsets. There's the reactive approach. That's where you wait until you actually see mold before you do anything. And then there's the proactive approach, where you learn to spot the invisible risk factors first. Our whole goal here is to help you shift from being reactive to proactive, because honestly, that's where real prevention happens.
Okay, so let's get into this invisible threat. Because the reality is, the most serious mold problems start long before they ever become visible to the naked eye. What you can't see, well, that's often the biggest part of the problem.
See, mold doesn't just pop up out of thin air. It needs one crucial ingredient: moisture. A moisture problem, like a really slow leak or just consistently high humidity, can be there for weeks, maybe even months. All that time, it's just creating this perfect little breeding ground inside your walls or under the floors. By the time you actually see mold on the surface, the problem is already well on its way. It's a late-stage symptom, not an early warning.
And that is the absolute key. By the time you see that mold, the moisture problem underneath it has become what we call an established issue. You can think of it like a weed, The visible mold is the flower, but the roots, that's the moisture problem. They've been spreading out of sight for a long time. At this stage, mold growth isn't just a possibility. It's pretty much a certainty.
But here's the good news. Your home actually gives you clues. It sends out these silent signals way before a problem gets out of hand. The trick is to become a kind of home health detective and just learn how to spot these clues early on.
And we can break these signals down into 4 main categories. So think of this as your detective's checklist, okay? You've got the odor clue, the condensation pattern, the material change, and the recurring damp spot. This is your early warning system. Let's take a closer look at each one.
First up, the odor clue. Now, this isn't some temporary smell. We're talking about a persistent, kind of earthy, musty smell that you just can't seem to pinpoint. If you're constantly walking around thinking, what is that smell? Chances are you're sniffing out what scientists call MVOCs. It's basically gases that mold releases as it grows. Your nose is an amazing detector, often the first one to know something's up. Okay, signal number 2, condensation. Look, a little bit of fog on the bathroom window after a hot shower, that's normal. But if you're constantly seeing water droplets on your windows, on pipes, or even on walls, that is a major red flag. It's a super clear sign that there's just too much moisture in your air, and that creates the perfect humid home for mold.
The third signal is all about physical changes to your home. Is paint bubbling or peeling for no apparent reason? Is a piece of wood trim starting to warp? Do you see weird stains? Or maybe you notice a spot of drywall that feels kind of soft or is crumbling. These are often the very first visible signs that water is secretly doing damage behind the surface, working its way out.
And finally, the recurring damp spot. This one is so simple but so powerful. If you touch a spot on a wall or on a carpet or in a cabinet and it feels cool or damp, and it feels that way over and over again, you've probably found an active moisture source. It could be a slow leak. It could be a spot where condensation always forms. Whatever it is, don't just ignore it.
Okay, so what if you find one of these signals? What do you do? The very first thing to remember is don't panic. Seriously. Finding a signal isn't a confirmation that you have a disaster on your hands. It's simply a trigger for the next logical step, which is just a little bit of investigation.
Exactly. Finding a signal isn't the diagnosis itself. Think of it this way. It's just a really good reason to put on that detective hat and take a closer look at what's actually going on in your home.
So what does looking closer actually mean in practice? Well, it means trying to find the source. Check under your sinks for those slow drips. Look for faint water stains on the ceiling that might point to a roof leak. You can grab a cheap little device called a hygrometer to see what your home's humidity levels are. And a huge one? Improve your ventilation, especially in bathrooms and kitchens. Use those exhaust fans. And maybe most importantly, just pay attention. Note if any of these signals start getting worse over time.
And all of this, it brings us right back to that core idea we started with. It's all about becoming a proactive protector of your own home's health. It's about making that fundamental shift in your mindset for a healthier place to live.
So look, if you remember just one single thing from all of this, please let it be this. The big takeaway is so simple. Stop looking for mold. Start looking for moisture. Moisture is the cause. Mold is just the effect. And if you focus on the cause, you can prevent the effect from ever really taking hold.
So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. After everything we've talked about, just take a minute to really think about your own home. What silent signals might it be sending you right now? What is your home telling you when you're not looking?